Part 45. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 441. System, congratulations, the enhancement is successful, you get add 100 vampire staff. System, sorry, your equipment has reached the enhancement limit and cannot be enhanced further. Yang Tian brainlessly clicked and strengthened without thinking. He soon received a system prompt and the strengthening interface disappeared immediately. It turns out that strengthening add 100 is the upper limit. Yang Tian smiled inwardly, feeling like a primary school student solving a difficult problem. Immediately, two more system prompts sounded one after another. System, congratulations on your equipment, add 100 vampire staff, being ranked number 1 in the world equipment rankings. Do you want to hide the ID? System, congratulations on your equipment, add 100 vampire staff, being ranked number 1 in the China War Zone equipment ranking. Do you want to hide the ID? Damn it, the Imperial weapon is number 1 on the list. Yang Tian was startled. When he reaches level 180, he has already opened major world rankings, world combat power rankings, world level rankings, world equipment rankings, world combat pet rankings, etc. Among them, the top 100 in the world equipment list are all 3-color or above equipment. Yang Tian only has Amos's hero ring on the list, and it is only ranked in the top 30. Even to death, he couldn't believe that a mere Imperial weapon could one day be ranked number 1 on the world's equipment list. Add 100 vampire staff, Imperial weapon. Level 180. Equipment type, staff. Physical attack add 10,000. Magic attack add 220,000. Intelligence add 100,000. Spirit add 100,000. Unique passive, vampiric. Enhanced additional, physical attack add 100,000, magic attack add 2.2 million. Magic attack add 2.2 million, no wonder, a level 180 holy weapon staff can only add 500,000 magic attack to death. Yang Tian suddenly understood. Of course, if it were really a sacred weapon staff, its intelligence would increase by hundreds of thousands, and if its intelligence increased its magic attack, it would add up to millions of magic attacks. But even so, it is far inferior to more than 2 million magic attacks. As we all know, the higher the quality of the equipment, the higher its basic attributes. The quality of equipment mainly depends on its basic attributes, while additional special effects, additional skills, etc. are considered bonus points. Although the add 100 vampire staff is only an Imperial weapon, its basic attributes have exploded due to its strengthening. Naturally, it can be called a top quality piece of equipment. Tisk, tisk, this is not a loss, I finally have a decent weapon. Yang Tian smiled with satisfaction, then glanced at the basic combat power and found that it had increased to 4 billion. Basic combat power refers to, assuming a non-defense, non-resistance wooden pile, the damage value that your basic attack can cause. Basic combat power mainly depends on, basic attack power, attribute enhancement, and explosion damage. Yang Tian's basic magic attack suddenly increased by more than 2 million, and his basic combat power naturally skyrocketed. Basic combat power is different from real combat power. If you turn on fighting spirit and use percentage damage skills, the damage will naturally be higher. In addition, combat power belongs to combat power, and damage belongs to damage. They should not be confused. After all, the enemy you face cannot be a wooden stake. You are likely to encounter a strong person with super high defense and resistance. Then the damage you cause will naturally be much lower. But it is obvious that basic combat strength is enough to show a person's strength. The higher the combat power, the higher the damage. There is nothing wrong with this. As the combat power increases, the damage will be higher. The more blood the blood-sucking staff absorbs, the stronger the life shield will naturally be. Yang Tian smiled in his heart. Just by changing one piece of equipment, his current strength has at least doubled. Double. Anonymous. After thinking for a while, Yang Tian still chose to remain anonymous. He was not afraid of being famous or being targeted, but the enhancement of Ad 100 was too exaggerated. If the ID is really displayed, I am afraid that it will be questioned by countless players from all over the world in minutes. When Yang Tian chose to remain anonymous, the vampire staff immediately topped the national server and world equipment lists, ranking first on both lists. The world was shaken. Major world rankings will only be opened and viewed after players reach level 180. But these masters no longer pay attention to the national server list and look at the world. It's an anecdote from the world that even a mere imperial weapon can rank first in the world list. Is there a bug in Taegzu? Brother, please open your eyes and take a closer look. This is equipment that is enhanced by Ad 100. Although we can't see the attributes through the equipment list, it is enhanced by Ad 100. It is obviously strong. What? Strengthen Ad 100? God, how did he do it? It's a pity that it's anonymous, otherwise I really want to ask for advice. All the powerful men and major forces in the world were stunned and secretly cursed him as a pervert. In fact, a post about Ad 100 vampire staff soon appeared on the Taegzu official website, attracting countless people to watch. The traffic exploded, and the world was boiling. However, Yang Tian, as a party involved, was outside. At this time, due to the Ad 100 enhancement, the blood-sucking staff in his hand emits an extremely dazzling light. Its brilliance far exceeds the 9-color treasure light, making all matter in the world dim. That high-profile light seems to be showing off to the world, I am a weapon that can be strengthened by Ad 100. Yang Tian quickly hid that light, otherwise his anonymity would be in vain. After hiding the light, the vampire staff once again became simple and unpretentious. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary imperial weapon, but no one knew that it contained a sharp edge. After obtaining the blood-sucking staff and blood, Yang Tian was no longer interested in other items dropped by the 10,000-year-old tree demon, so he ordered Tang Snake to start automatic picking up and cleaning the battlefield. After everything was done, Yang Tian and Tang Snake set out again. After about half an hour, they finally walked out of the bloody forest, and then their forward speed suddenly increased. Just because the bloody forest was full of tree demons, even if you fly, they will pull you down with vines. Because of this, Yang Tian almost brushed all the way, and then he took off and rushed towards the red dot. More than 10 minutes later, Yang Tian and Tang Snake came to a gloomy cemetery together. The surrounding large trees were lush and leafy, covering the sky and the sun, making the vision inside dark. Looking around, there were simple graves everywhere on the charred land, and the air was slightly cool, which made people feel a little creepy. The reason why Yang Tian came here was because the red dot on the instrument indicated that Xian Yuan Longer's last soul was inside. Duan. Suddenly, as if because of the arrival of Yang Tian Tangxi, the tomb swung out dark summoning arrays, and then countless white skeletons emerged from them. Those skeletons were thin, without any equipment, and their hands were empty. They looked like the worst skeletons, without any fighting power. He. Countless skeletons walked slowly towards Yang Tian Tangxi, and laughed eerily. In a flash, all the skeletons present were shining. In the light, the skeletons became tall and strong, wearing armor, and night daggers and skeleton shields appeared in their hands, and even undead war horses appeared under their crotches. Skeleton General, Royal Beast. Level 180. HP, 600 million. Basic combat power, 15 million. Skills, Charge, Trample, Gale Stab, Whirlwind Slash, Black Gun. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 442. The fantasy world is indeed magical. A group of skeletons holding silk in their mouths dreamed that they would become skeleton generals, and then they really became skeleton generals. Yang Tian took a casual glance and found that there were about 100 skeleton generals in this wave, all of them were royal beasts. This shows that the fantasy world is very unfriendly to ordinary players. Royal beasts can be seen everywhere. If you, an ordinary player, come in, you are simply looking for abuse. Ordinary players can only hang out in this world if they form a team. The Spirit King and his ilk are almost qualified to challenge alone, but they are also very dangerous, because there are many spiritual beasts, fairy beasts, and even holy beasts in the fantasy world. However, this place is enough for Yang Tian to sweep through. As strong as a 1,000-year-old tree demon, Yang Tian killed it casually, so what was there to fear? Even if he encounters a divine beast, he won't be too afraid now. Whether he can defeat it is another matter, but he should have no problem saving his life. Let me try the blood-sucking effect of the blood-sucking staff. Seeing 100 skeleton generals gathering together, riding undead war horses, and sprinting towards him, Yang Tian felt itchy and wanted to try it, transform into a skeleton bow and arrow hand. Rainstorm arrow. Yang Tian suddenly took action, and arrows rained down from the sky, hitting all the skeleton generals and causing a huge amount of damage. 1030-398-2902 1030-398-2902 1030-398-2902. Each damage was as high as tens of billions, and hundreds of damage of the same amount appeared, killing hundreds of skeleton generals at once. The bones were scattered on the ground, and a large number of items exploded. At the same time, a scarlet shield was generated outside Yang Tian's surface. Yang Tian is on the inside, the shield is on the outside, and the bone shield is on the outside. This is the priority relationship. The enemy must first crush the bone shield and knock down the shield before he can hurt Yang Tian. Yang Tian quickly checked the life thickness of this shield, -100 billion. He struck out with the rainstorm arrow, causing hundreds of billions of damage in 1 second, and the total amount of damage exceeded 1 trillion. According to the blood-sucking conversion rate of 10%, the life strength of the shield is 100 billion. It stands to reason that the skeleton general is an undead and should be immune to blood-sucking. But Yang Tian does not directly suck blood from them, but causes damage to them, converts the damage amount back into blood, and then converts it into a life shield after overflow. Yes, very good. I can create hundreds of billions of shields by myself. If I summon the undead army and focus the fire for 1 second, the shield created will definitely be stronger than the bone shield. Yang Tian smiled slightly, looking extremely satisfied. Afterwards, Teng Shi was ordered to clean up the battlefield. When everything was settled, Yang Tian's sharp disparity saw a series of rapid footsteps coming from the front. Immediately, a dozen players came to the cemetery in a panic as if they were running for their lives. Yang Tian just glanced at them and knew that the dozen or so people were all Chinese theater players. Fantasy World is a world-class dungeon. Anyone who reaches level 180 in each theater can enter the challenge. Asians, such as Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, have very similar appearances. How can Yang Tian tell the difference? It's simple, because players above level 180 cannot hide their ID regardless of whether they have a red name or not, their ID will always be on top of their head. Normal is in white font, red name is in red font. And before the ID, there will be a war zone logo. For example, the emblem of the Chinese war zone is a small 5-star red flag with the words emblem and muddy water floating above its head. And the dozen or so people also have the same logo on their heads, but they have different IDs. Muddy Waters. Brother Shui. What is Brother Shui? He hasn't been online for more than 3 months and has long been useless. Look at the Water Alliance, which used to be the largest force in the national server, but now it is bullied by all the major forces. Muddy Waters has passed his time. He will never be seen again. It is not our card in the China war zone. But despite this, The fact that Brother Shui can appear here now proves that he has reached level 180. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. He is at least a level 180 immortal king. What about you? Oh, if you put it like that, his level has risen quite quickly, but so what? Those little Japanese guys behind him are not weak in strength. When the group of players discovered Yang Tian, they were suddenly startled and whispered to each other. Hey, Muddy Waters, don't you just stand there stupidly, and run away with us? A group of little Japanese are behind us, come after us immediately, one of the players, Niu Meng, greeted Yang Tian carelessly. Facing Yang Tian, he didn't feel there was anything wrong with his tone. Instead, he felt that he had good intentions. However, Yang Tian remained motionless, as if he didn't hear him shouting at all. TCH, you don't have the ability and you still like to show off. Brothers, let's go, leave him alone, let him be hacked to death by Little Japan. Seeing that Yang Tian didn't take him seriously at all, Niu Meng frowned, thinking he had a kind heart. The indignation of a donkey. Niu Meng roared and jumped forward with his men. A group of Japanese players were chasing him behind him, which put him under great pressure. Boo-hoo-hoo. In the blink of an eye, with a series of breaking wind sounds, a group of players from behind were seen chasing after them with their feet in the void. Sure enough, they were a group of Japanese, because in front of the ids above their heads were the emblems of the Japanese war zone. The gap between the two sides is huge. Niu Meng and others were all running on the ground. They were obviously ordinary players, but all the Japanese players had flown over, at least they were Spirit Kings and above. Ha, a group of ants, as slow as a snail, how could they possibly escape? The leader of the Japanese player group was named Zayashi, carrying a giant sword, with 9 colored gems lingering around him, looking very arrogant. He sneered, and his tone contained undisguised contempt for Niu Meng and others. Taegzu has its own language translation system. You will hear the voice of the country you are from, and there is no communication barrier. Seeing that Zayashi had already caught up with them, Niu Meng and others suddenly felt as big as a bucket and sweated profusely. Even if they were despised like this, they did not dare to have the slightest attitude of retorting. Zayashi was a powerful saint king, how could they have the courage? Idiot, waste, sick man of East Asia, Zayashi was very mean, and he was unforgiving when he was in power, constantly using words to suppress the psychological defenses of Niu Meng and others. After verbally insulting them, Zhao Shi gradually lost interest. With a wave of his hand, several mage archers behind him suddenly focused their fire, and magic arrows flew down densely towards Niu Meng and others. It's over, I just reached level 180, and now I'm going to fall back. Niu Meng looked ashen, and he had completely lost the faith to resist Zhao Shi and others. It's over. Others around Niu Meng also felt powerless, and felt that they were going to fall back today. Just at this time, with a boom, a huge bone wall was seen to be strongly supported behind Niu Meng and others. Bang bang bang. The magic arrows that were originally sweeping towards Niu Meng and others were all borne by the bone wall. Niu Meng and others did not suffer any damage. Under the shadow of the huge bone wall, they felt an inexplicable sense of security in their hearts. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 443. Yang Tian's bone wall has also reached its maximum level, and its life thickness even exceeds that of the bone shield. Because of the increased combat power, the life thickness of Yang Tian bone shield has also increased, currently reaching 400 billion. The life thickness of the bone wall reaches about 500 billion. A bone wall is stronger than a bone shield? It's not true. Although the bone shield has no defensive attributes, because the bone shield is directly attached to Yang Tian, the enemy must first break through Yang Tian's defense to attack the bone shield. The bone wall is placed outside, which is equivalent to a huge shield with no defense and no resistance, but with 500 billion lives. Even so, it is not easy for Zhao Shi and others to break the bone wall. Brother Shui. Because of Yang Tian's rescue, everyone saved a small life. In their joy, they rushed to Yang Tian to seek shelter. Niu Meng's face turned red and stiff. Yang Tian's bone wall was like a slap on his face, catching him off guard. Thinking of his previous contemptuous attitude towards Yang Tian, Niu Meng felt ashamed and a little embarrassed to seek Yang Tian's protection. But he couldn't bear to immediately transfer back the level he had just promoted, so he shamelessly blended into the crowd and ran towards Yang Tian together. Stupid looking at the actions of Niu Meng and others, Yang Tian shook his head in his heart. The bone wall is erected there, and you have to run out and directly enter the killing line of Zhao Ku and others. Fortunately, Yang Tian's worries were unnecessary. Because at this time, Zhao Shi and others' eyes had been firmly fixed on him. In the eyes of Zhao Shi and others, Yang Tian, Niu Meng, and others are all prey, but Yang Tian seems to be slightly stronger, which can inspire their desire to hunt. Muddy waters. A mere necromancer has actually reached level 180. You are very good. Zhao Shi stared at Yang Tian with cold eyes. Each war zone has a specific hidden profession, such as Chinese onmyoji, Japanese ninja, American mecha warrior, British vampire, Korean beautician. Other than that, the professions in each war zone are actually the same. Yang Tian holds a staff and a bone shield in one hand. Based on this, Zun Lu has already identified his profession. Necromancer is recognized as powerful, but because it is too weak in the early stage, few people can practice it. Now that I am lucky enough to see a level 180 Necromancer, I am naturally very interested in him. But how can you, the light of a firefly, dare to compete with the sun and the moon? Today I will show you the power of our descendants of the Emperor. Zhao Wei sneered, and a lotus-like purple fighting spirit aroused all over his body. The purple fighting spirit and the nine-color treasure light shine brightly, making him look like a god descending to earth, with a demeanor that is arrogant to all. Call out. Zhao Chu galloped out and slashed towards Yang Tian with his sword. Brother Shui, run quickly. You can save the Green Hills without worrying about having firewood. Niu Meng and a group of people stood 100 yards behind Yang Tian. Looking at the aura that had long since lost, they trembled in their hearts and shouted towards Yang Tian. The nine-color white light lingering around him early, he is obviously a holy king above level 180, and he also has full-level fighting spirit, so his strength is extraordinary. And they didn't know Yang Tian's strength, so they immediately persuaded him kindly. However, Yang Tian didn't seem to hear him, and smiled directly at Zhao Shi and the people behind him. Don't bother, you all come together. Hiss. Yang Tian's suffocating manipulation immediately made Niu Meng and the others gasp, feeling that Yang Tian was too overbearing. On the other hand, Zhao Shi and the others laughed angrily, activated all their fighting energy, concentrated their fire and attacked Yang Tian. Bang bang bang. Yang Tian shouldered a wave, and the ground beneath his feet exploded, causing smoke and dust to billow. When the smoke and dust dissipated, Yang Tian still maintained full health. The glazed bone shield suffered tens of billions of damage in an instant and was slightly damaged, but that was all. Nowadays, Yang Tian's bone shield has a life thickness of 400 billion and can withstand tens of billions of damage, so what? His maximum level bone shield. Zhao Shi and the others were suddenly startled, staring at Yang Tian with cold eyes, all in disbelief. How thick is that glazed bone shield? It's not just as simple as a full-level bone shield. This person's combat power is extraordinary, at least he is a holy king, Zhao Shi said with a solemn face. Holy king, necromancer. Run away. Necromancer is synonymous with invincibility in the same realm. The rise of the necromancer is difficult and is looked down upon. but if it is the Necromancer who has risen, it will be frightening. Amidst the rapid shouting, Zhao Shi and others turned around and ran away. Just now, when you failed to blow up the bone wall, you should have understood the gap between us and the enemy. If you want to escape now, I'm afraid it's too late. Yang Tian laughed evilly and suddenly took action. Fumoang. As soon as Zhao Shi and the others turned around, spider webs spread all over the sky, trapping them all. Yang Tian stretched out his hand and pulled. Zhao Shi and the others overlapped and were pulled down from mid-air, and came to Yang Tian. Yang Tian controlled the net with his left hand, and waved the blood-sucking staff with his right hand. Summon a self-destructing spider. A huge black summoning array swung away from beneath his feet, and densely packed self-destructing spiders appeared immediately, numbering in the thousands. All the self-destructing spiders instantly locked onto their target, pounced on the web, and exploded. Boom. 42,3020121. 6693020201112. 590202030301. 710030202929. As the earth-shaking explosion sounded, a large area of bright red and horrible damage appeared in the sky, and the lowest damage was more than 420 billion. 1,000 self-destructing spiders, with 1,000 times the magic output, and the explosion damage varies depending on the target. Zhao Shi is a powerful Saint King, with full-level fighting spirit, 8 times the damage and 8 times the defense. The damage he suffered was the least, which was more than 420 billion, the damage suffered by the rest of the people was even more terrifying. One move. Zhao Shi and others were all blown to death, and a scarlet ball of light emerged from their corpses, pouring on Yang Tian, forming a scarlet shield on his body. Shield strength, 500 billion plus. Unfortunately, the enemies have been completely wiped out, and the shield has no meaning. 10 seconds after leaving the battle, the shield will automatically disappear. Snap, Yang Tian snapped his fingers casually, and Tang Shi rushed over after hearing the news, diligently cleaning the battlefield. Yang Tian himself looked calm, as if killing a Saint King and several immortal kings in one move was as easy as eating and drinking water. He had a unique style of a general. 100 meters away, Niu Meng and others were dumbfounded, their eyes were dull, and their mouths were wide open enough to fit an egg. Damn, killing several Saint Kings and immortal kings in one move, and the damage was far beyond the limit. Is this still a human? It's simply a monster. Niu Meng, your father is still your father, and brother Shui is still brother Shui. Everyone was moved. Niu Meng trembled all over, his face flushed and stiff. More than 3 months, Yang Tian disappeared for such a long time. Niu Meng thought he had fallen from the altar and was indistinguishable from the crowd, who knew he was still so strong. Niu Meng thought of his previous contemptuous attitude towards Yang Tian, and his scalp suddenly numbed. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 444. After Tang Shi cleaned up the spoils, Yang Tian was ready to go and continued to move towards the cemetery. Just then, the group of Chinese players caught up with him and shouted at him, "Brother Shui, don't go, it's very dangerous ahead." Dangerous? Yang Tian was stunned, a little confused. For them, aren't Zhaoshi and others dangerous? But Zhaoshi's group has been wiped out, what danger is there ahead? Brother Shui, we just escaped back from the front. Anyway, it's very dangerous there. Shui, brother Shui, you'd better not go. One of the players said stutteringly. Yang Tian frowned. Can you speak? The more you talk, the more confused you are. Can brother Shui understand? Another player cursed and said, let me tell you, there, a Japanese alliance is besieging a boss. After we are discovered, we will be chased back by Zhaoshi and others. Japanese alliance. Boss, Yang Tian was stunned. Well, it should be a powerful force in the Japanese war zone, about 500 people, all of them are players above level 180, among which there are at least 100 strong players above Spirit King. As strong as Zhao Shi, he is at most just a captain. It's terrifying. Although the little Japanese are not worthy of praise, their game level is really high the man's side. What about the boss? Yang Tian asked. I didn't see it clearly, it seems to be a necromancer. He has no undead like skeletons, only 5 bone dragons. Those 5 bone dragons are all holy beasts. To be honest, although the Japanese force is very strong, it may not be able to take advantage of that level of necromancer, the man said. Bone Dragon Saint. A thought flashed through Yang Tian's mind, he had to go, because the Bone Dragon Saint was very important to him. Killing the Bone Dragon Saint, if it is the first kill, there will be a high probability of exploding the Summon Bone Dragon skill book. The most powerful undead under the Necromancer is actually the Lich King. The Bone Dragon is the existence second only to the Lich King. Yang Tian is now a Holy King and can summon a Holy Beast level undead to join the battle. However, the Bone Dragon itself is a Holy Beast. As long as you have its summoning skill, you can directly summon it, the two are not in conflict. In other words, when Yang Tian has the skill of summoning Bone Dragon, he can summon both the Bone Dragon and a Holy Beast level undead. Thank you for your information. Yang Tian took out something casually, handed it to the man, and turned to rush forward. The man's name is Nan Bassian. He opened his hand and saw that it was a 3-color spirit essence. He laughed like a pig. Brother Shui is really generous. He gave away the 3-color spirit essence casually. Domineering, rich and willful. Damn. This 3-color spirit essence should belong to me. The stuttering player stared at Nan Bassian with envy and jealousy. Your sister. Who told you to be so slow that you can't even finish a sentence? Nan Bassian was also very naughty, deliberately imitating the stuttering. Stuttering didn't have any thoughts, probably he was used to being treated like this. Then, Nan Bassian swallowed the spirit essence in one gulp, and a white light flashed, and he was promoted to the Spirit King. Awesome. Brother Shui is awesome, Nan Bassian laughed. Brother Shui is really awesome. Before, I spoke rudely to him, but he didn't blame me. Niu Meng walked over, respecting Yang Tian in his heart. You seem to be deliberately making me laugh. Brother Shui is such a person that he would care about an ant like you. Blame you? You wish. Nan Bassian looked at Niu Meng with contempt and sneered. Hearing this, Niu Meng's face was immediately full of black lines, and his scalp was numb. If the two were not friends, he would have torn the stinky mouth of that thing long ago. Okay, Nan Bassian, don't act like a good kid after getting an advantage. Brother Shui is really going there. Should we follow him and see? Another person walked out and suggested. You are crazy. With us, the few of us, going there is, what's the difference between that and, sending ourselves to death? Stuttered. No. Hard to say. Brother Shui's strength is unfathomable. He might beat those little Japanese, Nan Bassian said, and then glanced at Stutter with a provocative smile. After 3 times, Stutter finally got angry and kicked Nan Bassian in the crotch, and the latter screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Then, after discussing for a while, they still couldn't help wanting to see some excitement, so they gathered and headed towards the battlefield ahead. Before they arrived, they heard the sound. In the cemetery ahead, dragon roars full of ancient majesty and vicissitudes came from time to time, completely igniting the blood in Yang Tian's heart, and he accelerated forward, and soon arrived at the battlefield. 5 bone dragons were seen hovering high above the battlefield. Their white pterosaur skeletons were as large as 100 yards, and every inch of their bones was covered with a faint holy light. With a roar, the surrounding air exploded, and a piercing dragon roar was heard, making the surrounding space seem to be about to collapse, which was extremely terrifying. On the broad back of one of the bone dragons, a black-robed wizard holding a staff stood. He was the Bone Dragon Saint. Corresponding to him was the Japanese army. The bone dragons could swallow and spit out dark blue flames, burning 100 yards away at any time. When Yang Tian came over, this cemetery was full of blue sparks, the land was charred, and there were piles of corpses. Obviously, the Japanese army could not have suffered no losses in attacking such a strong man, and in fact, they also paid a painful price. More than 300 ordinary players have been wiped out, and the remaining more than 100 are all strong men above the Spirit King, standing in mid-air at this moment. The leader among them is a female player, with 3 pairs of white wings extending from her back, and 9-color holy light lingering around her body, like an angel descending to the earth. No, she is actually an angel, a 6-winged angel. Senbon Snow Sakura. In his previous life, Yang Tian was a god-level assassin. Even though he was alone, his strength was not top-notch, and his power was almost non-existent, but because of his profession as an assassin, he was like a dragon swinging his tail, his whereabouts were uncertain, and he could go wherever he wanted, and few people could keep him. In his previous life, he also traveled across Taixu and naturally had some understanding of the top strong men in various war zones. At that moment, he recognized the Japanese woman. In his previous life, there were 3 top forces in the Japanese war zone, namely Emperor, Shinobu, and Fallen Angel. Senbon Snow Sakura is a deputy ally of the Fallen Angels. She is an archer and very powerful. Angels and demons are 2 opposing groups, but they have one thing in common, which is that they can both tell their strength by the number of wings. Senbon Snow Sakura is currently a 6-winged angel, and her realm is equivalent to that of a human Saint King, but a 6-winged angel or a 6-winged demon is much more powerful than a human Saint King. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 445. The advantages of angels and demons over humans lie in their combat power and speed. 6-winged angels or 6-winged demons have 6 times higher combat power and 60% higher speed than ordinary holy kings. This gap is very large. They can beat the human holy king. Don't you see it? Xiefeng directly slaughtered the 4-nation coalition army with one man's power. It is also worth mentioning that just like dragons are naturally capable of restraining insects and snakes, angels are naturally restrained of demons. Angels represent light and demons represent darkness. Angels are born with light attributes, with high light intensity, high light resistance, and high dark resistance. Demons are born with dark attributes, with high dark strength, high dark resistance, and low light resistance. When angels fight demons, the damage will be increased inexplicably, but when demons fight angels, the damage will be greatly weakened. Generally within the same realm, angels beat demons. Although Yang Tian is not a demon, his undead master is also born with dark attributes, so he is naturally restrained by angels. Before Master Mo Fan died, he once told him to be careful about the profession of light domination. From Yang Tian's point of view, what he has to be careful about is not the Lord of Light, but the Lord of Light of the Angel clan. Under double restraint, Yang Tian could not imagine for the time being that he would encounter that kind of person one day. Eyes of Truth. As the level and realm increase, Yang Tian's true eye can see more attribute panels of the target. Senbon Snow Sakura, ID Archer, Angel Clan, level 185, HP 150 million, basic combat power 1.8 billion. Players are still players after all. Before they become gods, or become 8-winged angels or 8-winged demons, life is still too fragile. She should not be my opponent now. Looking through the opponent's attribute panel, Yang Tian weighed it in his heart. His current lifespan is only 120 million, not even as good as Senbon Yuki Sakura, but he has a bone shield, a scarlet shield, his total lifespan is unimaginably high. Generally speaking, Holy Kings and Holy Beasts only have a basic combat strength of 2 to 300 million. Senbon Yuki Sakura is a seraphim, her basic combat power is as high as 1.8 billion, while Yang Tian's basic combat power is as high as 4 billion. Although Yang Tian is a human Holy King, he is not an ordinary Holy King. For example, magic energy conversion, such as the enhanced Add 100 blood-sucking staff, he is incomprehensibly powerful. The battle between Senbon Snow Sakura and others and the Bone Dragon Saint is still going on. Qianbangsu Sakura activated her fighting spirit and faced the Bone Dragon Saint and his 5 bone dragons alone. Everyone else stood behind Qianbangsu Sakura and consumed them remotely. Because of the 3 pairs of holy wings on her back, Qianbon Snow Sakura was extremely fast, and she could pull out illusory afterimages behind her with just a single movement. Even if 5 bone dragons work together to encircle and surround her, it will be difficult for her to get her hands on Senbon Snow Sakura's clothes and she can easily escape. It's not that the bone dragon is too slow, it's that Senbon Snow Sakura's speed is too fast. If it's just a close combat, the bone dragon will never be able to cause damage to her, but will be consumed by her infinite kites. Fortunately, Bone Dragon has long-range skills. Dark Flame, the Bone Dragon Saint gave an order, and each of the 5 bone dragons spit out strong blue flames from their mouths. The attack range was extremely large, sweeping hundreds of yards. No matter how fast Senbon Snow Sakura was, it was impossible to avoid it. Boom! For a moment, Senbon Snow Sakura was hit by 5 blue flames shot from different directions, and her body was completely submerged in the flames. With the attribute blessing of the Bone Dragon Saint, the basic combat power of each bone dragon is at least 500 million. And if you use the skill Dark Flame, your combat power can reach tens of billions. However, Bone Dragon is a dark creature, and Dark Flame is also a dark attribute attack. As a seraph, Senbon Yuki Sakura's dark resistance is ridiculously high. In addition, her full level of fighting spirit can reduce the damage 8 times, which greatly weakens the damage caused by the dark flames to her. After a moment, the 5 blue flames dissipated, and the 1,000 snow sakuras still stood proudly in the air, spotless, with the 3 pairs of snow-white wings behind it showing its supreme holiness. Under such an onslaught, her health bar dropped by about a third. You know, her total life is only 150 million, and her health bar has dropped by 1/3. In other words, she has only suffered about 50 million damage. The Bone Dragon used dark flames to break through tens of billions of combat power, and 5 bone dragons hit at the same time. In the end, it only caused about 50 million damage. This fully shows how great the Angel Clan's restraint against dark creatures is. Treat. The Wind of Revival. Many priests behind Qianben Shuiying quickly raised their hands to treat her, causing soft rays of light to flash across Qianben Shuiying's body. The health bar that had lost 1/3 was filled up in an instant. Rainstorm Arrow. While receiving treatment, Qianben Shuiying suddenly took action, raised her bow and fired arrows, raining arrows from the sky towards the Bone Dragon Saint. Every arrow in the rain of arrows is holy and white, attacking with light attributes. The attack range of the rainstorm arrow is also up to 100 yards. Even if the Bone Dragon Saint steps on the Bone Dragon, it is impossible to dodge at the speed of the Bone Dragon. In a moment, he was completely hit. Bang bang bang. 239-202-0032. 239-202-0032. 193-020-2021. 193-020-2021. The rain of arrows from the sky fell intensively on the Bone Dragon Saint. At the same time, they naturally hit the back of the Bone Dragon at his feet. He and the Bone Dragon were injured at the same time. I saw a hail of arrows hitting the Bone Dragon Saint and the Bone Dragon. The areas where they were attacked continued to emit white smoke, giving the impression of a dark substance being purified. Under the attack of the rain of arrows, the blood bar on the head of the Bone Dragon Saint suddenly dropped by more than half, and he couldn't help but feel terrified. Not only the Bone Dragon Saint himself, but also the bone dragon under his feet lost half of its blood. Angels, so scary. My dream since childhood is to become a necromancer who can control the bone dragon. I thought this was the strongest. Now my dream has come true. Who knew that angels are the most powerful? The Bone Dragon Saint stared at Qian Ben Shuiying and said with melancholy. Die, Qian Ben Shuiying shouted coldly, pulled the bow to the full moon, and with a swoosh, shot a golden armor-piercing arrow, rushing towards the Bone Dragon Saint. The Bone Dragon Saint was shocked, his scalp was numb, and he quickly controlled the Bone Dragon under his feet to raise his head. The Bone Dragon received the order and raised its huge body. With a loud bang, the armor-piercing arrow hit the abdomen of the Bone Dragon, smashing it to pieces. Countless huge broken bones fell from mid-air to the ground, causing smoke and dust to roll, and then turned into stars and disappeared. The Bone Dragon was just a summoned creature of the Bone Dragon Saint. Qian Ben Shuiying shot it, and not only did she not get any experience, but also did not get any other benefits. At the cost of losing a Bone Dragon, the Bone Dragon Saint escaped a disaster. He did not dare to fight anymore, but turned around and fled immediately. It's unnecessary. You can't escape with your speed, Qian Ben Shuiying sneered, spread the 6 wings behind him, and chased quickly. But at this moment, in order to survive, the Bone Dragon Saint controlled the other 4 bone dragons to block him and Qian Ben Shuiying. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 446. A mantis trying to stop a chariot, Qian Ben Shuiying shouted coldly. 10,000 arrows fired at once. Duan. Suddenly, a huge white vertical summoning array popped up from behind Qian Ben Shuiying, and countless milky white light arrows shot out from the summoning array, puff puff puff, hitting the 4 bone dragons crazily. The 4 bone dragons were burned with intense white smoke, and they screamed in pain. With the continuous emergence of billions of damage, the 4 bone dragons fell in an instant, and fell into countless broken bones, smashing the ground into a deep pit and stirring up waves of smoke and dust. Wow, damn, that woman is too scary, isn't she? Nan Bassian, Niu Meng, GBA and others had just arrived and saw the scene in front of them. They were shocked and their mouths were wide enough to fit an egg. The bone dragon is a sacred beast, and Qian Ben Shuiying actually killed 4 bone dragons in one move. Isn't this combat power too exaggerated? Brother Shui killed Zhao Shi and others in one move, and Qian Ben Shuiying killed 4 bone dragons in one move. In my opinion, Qian Ben Shuiying's combat power is much higher than that of Brother Shui. Everyone didn't know that angels have a natural restraint on the undead, so they judged that Qian Ben Shuiying's strength was higher than Yang Tian. This is normal, after all, Yang Tian killed Zhao Shi and others in one move. They are just Saint King players, and there are even Immortal Kings and Spirit Kings, with a maximum HP of about 100 million. The HP of the Bone Dragon is as high as hundreds of billions. They are all killed in one move, so they know who is stronger and who is weaker. Hey, where is Brother Shui? Nan Bassian found something strange and asked. Everyone was startled and looked around, but they didn't see Yang Tian, and they felt something was wrong. Brother Shui went ahead and should have arrived a long time ago, but now he is gone. Could it be that Brother Shui has been killed in one move by Qian Ben Shuiying? Niu Meng said. Impossible. You have seen how strong Brother Shui's glazed bone shield is. Zhao Shi and the others can't even beat him, right? Qian Ben Shuiying said it in seconds. Nan Bassian frowned. Perhaps it was because Yang Tian gave him a spiritual essence. At this time, In his heart, Yang Tian was already an idol-level figure, and he naturally did not allow Niu Meng to look down on Yang Tian. But you have also seen how powerful Qian Ben Shuiying is. Niu Meng curled his lips. He was not targeting Yang Tian. To be honest, he now respected Yang Tian quite a bit, but he still felt that Qian Ben Shuiying was stronger. While Nan Bassian and Niu Meng were arguing, Qian Ben Shuiying had already approached the Bone Dragon Saint. Her speed was so fast that the latter's scalp was numb. Under the command of the Bone Dragon Saint, there was only the Bone Dragon, a kind of undead. Now that the Bone Dragons were all destroyed, he had no means at all. Qian Ben Shuiying was faster than him, and he could not escape at all, and he had no choice but to die. As soon as he thought of this, the Bone Dragon Saint suddenly felt as if he had died. At this moment, he suddenly felt a chill in his throat, blood gushed out. The life of the Bone Dragon Saint passed away in an instant, his eyes were blurred, and before he died, he looked at the skeleton figure in front of him in disbelief. Brother Shui is there. I almost forgot that Brother Shui is not an ordinary necromancer. He can transform into a dead spirit and use the skills of the dead spirit, Nan Bassian and others said excitedly. In the past 2 years, Yang Tian has been like a dragon, not in the martial arts world, but his legend is everywhere in the martial arts world. His powerful strength and some conventional means have long been known to all high-end players in the Chinese theater. Seeing the scene in front of them, Nan Bassian and others finally understood that Yang Tian was not killed instantly by Qian Ben Shuiying, but transformed into a netherworld assassin, sneaking, hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to move, and killed the remaining blood of the Bone Dragon Saint in 1 second with a throat slash. When the Bone Dragon Saint was escaping, he had been beaten to a low health by Qian Ben Shuiying. Yang Tian cut his throat with one move, dealing 100 billion damage to him and killed him. At the same time, a red dot appeared on the Bone Dragon Saint and rushed towards Yang Tian, forming a scarlet shield on Yang Tian's body with a strength of 10 billion life. Yang Tian received the first kill reward. Not only that, the Bone Dragon Saint exploded a large number of items, and fell down with the cold body. Those items were protected by property. Within 10 minutes, only Yang Tian or his teammates and battle pets could pick them up. Qian Ben Shuiying and others, Nan Bassian and others could not pick them up. Looking at the skeleton that suddenly appeared in front of her, Qian Ben Shuiying's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. Why did this skeleton monster come here? And he knew how to assassinate and sneak attack. But in a flash, she realized that it was not an ordinary skeleton, but a player in the Chinese war zone. Because, although Yang Tian looks like a skeleton, in Qian Ben Shuiying's eyes, he still has the words muddy water and the emblem of the Chinese theater on his head. You are so bold, you actually robbed my prey. Qian Ben Shuiying stared at Yang Tian with her beautiful eyes and shouted. What can I do if I rob you? Yang Tian grinned with a big skeleton mouth. Qian Ben Shuiying was angry and felt that Yang Tian didn't understand the situation and overestimated his own abilities. I am an angel, you are a ghost, I can easily shoot you, Qian Ben Shuiying sneered. Try it, I stand here and let you shoot an arrow, come on, if you move, I lose, Yang Tian said, standing with his hands behind his back, really standing still. Brother Shui is too pretentious, right? Nan Bassian and others were all stunned and gasped. You are looking for death yourself, Qian Ben Shuiying laughed angrily, pulled the bow to the full moon, and with a strong sound of breaking wind, a golden arrow pierced the air and shot towards Yang Tian. This arrow is called the 7-star arrow and is used by Senbon Snow Sakura. It not only has powerful damage but can also stun the enemy. Qian Ben Shuiying was very cautious. She saw that Yang Tian had a glazed bone shield and a scarlet shield. In fact, despite this, she didn't think Yang Tian could withstand her arrow. After all, it was too easy for an angel to fight the undead. But to be on the safe side, she still used the 7-star arrow. At that time, if Yang Tian took a hit, he would be dizzy even if he didn't die. It's over. That woman is not a fuel-saving lamp. Although she has extremely high combat power, she is not arrogant at all and still chooses the safe 7-star arrow. Brother Shui is finished this time, Nan Bassian sighed. At this time, Yang Tian in the air disappeared out of thin air, causing Qianben Shuiying's arrow to hit nothing. The next moment, Yang Tian waved a cold dagger and suddenly appeared on the right side of Qianben Shuiying, flash. Nan Bassian, Niu Meng, GBA and others were all stunned. The Japanese warriors behind Senbon Shuiying were ashamed and angry. They felt ashamed of having their intelligence suppressed, and angry of being deceived. Bastard, this man actually broke his promise. Have you ever heard a saying that Chinese women often say, all men are liars? Senbon Shuiying's heart trembled when she heard the laughter in her ears. Backhand stab. 3940922021. At the same time, Yang Tian stabbed backhand, triggering the triple back attack damage of the title low-key warrior, and stabbed the dagger into the back of Senbon Shuiying. As the huge amount of damage emerged, Senbon Shuiying instantly became cold and fell silently. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 447. Angels naturally resist dark creatures. As a seraph, Senbon Snow Sakura's dark resistance is very high, plus 8 times the damage reduction of Purple Fighting Spirit. Even with Yang Tian's high combat power, a backhand backstab only caused a measly 390 million damage. Despite this, Senbon Snow Sakura was still beaten. This invisibly confirms what Yang Tian said before, players are just players after all. Before they become gods, or 8-winged angels, or 8-winged demons, their health points are too low. Brother Shui, it's so shameless, but I like it. Below, Nan Bassian was shocked for a long time before he reacted, and then said excitedly. Niu Meng, stuttering and others looked at him sideways and couldn't bear to look directly at him. What? The strong ones compete with each other according to their own methods. Brother Shui doesn't stick to trivial matters, that's how everyone behaves, Nan Bassian said. Lick, keep licking. Niu Meng and others were speechless. Muddy waters. You are despicable and shameless. You promised to stand still, but you go back on your word. After Qian Bengxiying fell, a group of her men immediately gathered around and yelled at Yang Tian. Yang Tian smiled lightly. In his previous life, he was an assassin, carrying out sneak attacks and assassinations. He didn't do this kind of thing too much, and he was often yelled at, so he was naturally used to it. The winner is king. Everyone relies on their own means in the game. I can only say that your boss is too young, Yang Tian said with a smile. Besides, I kindly taught your boss a lesson. You should thank me. We still have to thank you. Of course, you have to know that even if you don't use this method, your boss is no match for me from the front, Yang Tian said seriously. What he said was definitely the truth, but Senbon Yuki Sakura was a seraph, and her speed was much faster than him. If he didn't use this method, it would be difficult for him to kill her. What a shameless statement. If you really have such strength, why would you use such insidious methods? A strong Saint King roared angrily and said, let's all come together to kill this despicable villain and avenge the Shuiying Vice Alliance. After finishing speaking, all the powerful Japanese men present activated their fighting spirit and moved towards Yang Tian to besiege them aggressively. Snapped. Facing a group of powerful men, Yang Tian casually snapped his fingers and summoned hundreds of Black Knights in mid-air. Yang Tian is currently a level 180 Holy King, and all the hundreds of Black Knights are level 180 sub-immortals. With the blessing of Yang Tian attributes, in terms of combat power alone, every Black Knight is even stronger than the Immortal King. Necromancer? Holy Necromancer, all the enemies gasped. Undead transformation is a skill that hides professional undead masters and is extremely rare. At this time, Yang Tian had a skeleton appearance, and the enemy couldn't see through his profession at all. It wasn't until he summoned 100 Black Knights that they suddenly realized it. Feeling the powerful pressure of the Black Knight army, the enemy's scalps felt numb and they wanted to escape, but it was too late. Death charge. Total annihilation. I saw an army of Black Knights riding undead warhorses, suddenly rushing into the enemy group, sweeping through thousands of troops, and slaughtering madly. Although all the enemy groups are Spirit Kings above level 180, because they are players, their HP is relatively small. Each Black Knight has up to 50 billion HP, while the average Soul King and Immortal King players only have tens of millions of HP. They cannot kill the Black Knight, but the Black Knight can easily harvest their lives. In the blink of an eye, a large number of people in the enemy group fell, leaving only the last 5 Holy King players. Even they, under the siege of the Black Knight army, looked embarrassed, and their demise was only a matter of time. Muddy Waters, with your strength, you are definitely not an unknown person in the Chinese war zone. What you have done today is equivalent to declaring war on us fallen angels. The 5 people stared at Yang Tian and shouted coldly. I am the leader of the Water Alliance. If you have the guts, come to the Chinese theater to find me. Yang Tian sneered, not taking this threat to heart at all, and immediately snapped his fingers. I saw that on that battlefield, all the Black Knights surged with destructive energy and exploded immediately. Bang bang bang. The horrific explosion caused a black mushroom cloud to appear in the sky, and screams came from inside. When all the smoke and dust dissipated, the sky returned to color again, leaving no trace behind, as if nothing had happened. In fact, the 5 Japanese Holy Kings had all been killed by the corpse explosion caused by the Black Knight army. Is this Brother Shui's true strength? Even though he has been offline for more than 3 months, he still crushes everything when he comes back. Nan Basian's whole body trembled with excitement, looking at Yang Tian's eyes as if he were meeting a god. Niu Meng, Stutter and the others were also stunned. Yang Tian is a Holy King, and the opponent has millions of Soul Kings and above, and there are also 5 Holy Kings. However, Yang Tian crushed him so hard that the opponent had no room for a backhand. This shows how abnormal Yang Tian's strength is. The battle broke out in mid-air. Yang Tian crushed everything with force, and all the loot exploded fell into the cemetery below. Yang Tian descended, summoned Soaring Snake, and cleaned up the loot with him. Let Tang Snake clean up the rest, while Yang Tian wants to clean up the trophies exploded by the Bone Dragon Saint, among which there is a 9-color Holy Light and a 9-color skill book with a golden cover. Summon Bone Dragon Skill Book, Learning Requirements, Level 180, Holy King Necromancer. Yang Tian just met the requirements. He clapped his hands and started learning directly. The newly learned skills are only LV1, and Yang Tian still has more than 200 skill points. The later the game progresses, the fewer skills there are. Yang Tian has almost learned all the skills of the Necromancer. As for the skills of the Lord of the Dead, they are too rare, and whether you can get them depends entirely on fate. Yang Tian did not expect too much, so he madly put skill points into the skill Summon Bone Dragon. System, your skill Summon Bone Dragon is upgraded, and it is currently LV2. System, your skill Summon Bone Dragon is upgraded, and it is currently LV3. System, your skill Summon Bone Dragon is upgraded, and it is currently LV4. System, your skill Summon Bone Dragon is upgraded, and it is currently LV5. System, sorry, your skill Summon Bone Dragon has reached the maximum level, and you failed to use the skill points. What? The upper limit of this skill is only level 5, Yang Tian was startled and shocked. In his previous life, he had hardly seen high-end necromancers, and he did not know enough about many of the necromancer's later skills. He was naturally shocked at the moment. Yang Tian immediately glanced at the skill that had been upgraded to LV5, and found that through this skill, he could summon up to 5 bone dragons, the same level as the master, and the realm of the holy beast. It turns out that the bone dragon can only summon up to 5, just like the Black Knight can only summon up to 100, both have a limited number. That's fine, it's equivalent to saving skill points. Yang Tian smiled slightly, and didn't care too much. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 448. Yang Tian is a Saint King Undead mage, who can choose to summon a Saint King Undead. Now, on this basis, he can also summon 5 bone dragons, greatly enhancing his strength. Brother Shui, when Yang Tian and Teng Snake finished cleaning up the spoils, Nan Bassian brought people over and greeted him warmly. Huh? You haven't left yet? The fantasy world is not something you can gallop in. Yang Tian frowned. As strong as he is, he naturally doesn't take Nan Bassian and others seriously. Hearing this, Niu Meng, GBA and others were embarrassed. Yang Tian's words were already very tactful, but their self-esteem was still a little hurt, and they couldn't help but blame Nan Bassian. Why did this kid ask us to come here to be abused? That's it, Brother Shui, we all admire you very much, can you give us a chance to join the Water Alliance? Nan Bassian laughed. Niu Meng, GBA and others were shocked and looked at him, thinking that this thing was really thick-skinned. Is that so? Yang Tian nodded slightly. During the time he was on the Insect Star, the Water Alliance was jointly blasted and suffered heavy losses. Most of the people in the Water Alliance have already withdrawn, and they really need some fresh blood at the moment. Although the strength of Nan Bassian and others is not comparable to his, they can reach level 180 in the Chinese theater and come to this fantasy world, which is also considered a high-end player level. It's okay, but I can't operate in the dungeon. So, when you go out, contact Blue Cat and say that I recommended it. Yang Tian left the sentence and left with Teng Shi. Damn, you are so shameless. With the opportunity to enter the Water Alliance, Niu Meng, GBA and others were secretly happy, but still couldn't help despising Nan Bassian. Wait, let's not talk in secret, how can I be thick-skinned? Nan Bassian questioned. People say that the fantasy world is not something we can gallop in, you are so embarrassed to ask to join the Water Alliance. It's true. Damn it, you gallop one now and show me, Nan Bassian cursed. Brother Shui was just euphemistic, he was too embarrassed to say we were trash directly, don't you know what's going on? Euphemisms, you are trash to begin with, you need to recognize who you are, otherwise how can you become a strong man like Brother Shui? Nan Bassian cursed in frustration. Niu Meng, GBA and others were speechless and lowered their heads in shame. Of course, you are all trash, but I am not. I am still a spirit king after all. Get lost. According to the coordinates of the red dot on the instrument, Yang Tian kept walking towards the gloomy cemetery, and he felt something was wrong the more he walked. According to the progress, he gradually came to the depths of the gloomy cemetery. And his experience in his previous life told him that there was a Lich King in the depths of the gloomy cemetery. Liches are a powerful race, and the weakest apprentice Liches are all lords, while the Lich King is a divine beast. Liches are the kings of darkness, and can control all dark creatures and undead within a certain range and below their realm. The Lich King is the king of kings in the darkness. As long as it is within its command range, it can control everything except the dark beasts. And the dead soul, to some extent, is also a kind of undead. Could it be that Xian Yuan longer has been controlled by the Lich King? Such a thought suddenly flashed through Yang Tian's mind. Now he is extremely powerful. In the realm of the Holy King, he is almost invincible in the world. He really wants to find a beast to practice and see if he can knock it down. But the Lich King is different. If Yang Tian summons the undead army, including the 5 bone dragons, they will be instantly controlled by the Lich King, and then they will be counterattacked by the undead army. Therefore, if Yang Tian fights the Lich King, he cannot rely on the undead army, but can only rely on his own strength. As a result, Yang Tian was quite nervous. However, The red dot on the instrument showed that Xian Yuan Longer's ghost was in front of him, so he had to go over and take a look. If not, he would kill Xian Yuan Longer in an instant and then escape. Whew! The deeper he went, the darker the environment inside became. From time to time, there were gusts of gloomy wind. There were countless dark clouds rolling like evil dragons above the sky, and countless ghosts entangled and wrestled together, which looked extremely gloomy and terrifying. Yang Tian was too familiar with such an environment. This was the scene caused by the skill darkness descent of the Necromancer. Of course, as a Necromancer, Yang Tian was immune to the negative state brought about by this darkness descent. In other words, when he was in the darkness descent, his dark resistance would not decrease at all, which gave him a little more confidence, because he would most likely face the terrifying Lich King next. If the dark resistance was still reduced, there would be no fun. Master, the environment here makes me very uncomfortable, Tang Shi said helplessly. Well, come back and rest. Yang Tian waved his hand and directly took Tang Snake back to the pet column. Tang Snake was too weak now. Apart from automatically picking up items, it could not provide him with any help. Afterwards, Yang Tian transformed into Nether Assassin again for the sake of caution, used stealth, and entered the invisible state. It is worth mentioning that maintaining the undead transformation consumes 100 MP per second. However, Yang Tian's current MP is as high as 22.6 million, and the Saint King talent restores 9% of blood and mana per second in the non-combat state, and the Heart of the God Tree talent restores 10% per second. His mana is too much to use up, so as long as he wants, he can switch to the undead transformation and maintain it permanently. Hiding in the shadows, without any worries, Yang Tian's pace naturally accelerated. A few minutes later, he found an unusually huge tomb. The tomb was originally a magnificent palace, perhaps a place where the royal family of a certain country was buried. After years of polishing, the palace has lost its former color, and it is tattered and covered with black stains. Especially the top of the palace, which is covered with man-eating grass, giving people a picture of hell on earth. In front of the palace gate, there are two skeleton spirit kings holding the left and right handles, and the open space in front is piled with black slimes. The slime is the size of a basketball, with a round body, but looks very ferocious, and the fangs are exposed on the mouth, giving people a bloodthirsty feeling. This is not an ordinary slime, but a zombie slime, a level 190 royal beast. If Nan Bassian and others come over in such a terrifying map, they will probably become corpses in an instant. Yang Tian was confident that he could sweep the palace, but he didn't want to make too much noise, so he didn't even take the two skeleton spirit kings and sneaked into the palace. Passing through the long corridor, Yang Tian came to the central square. The palace was very large and complicated. On the huge square, there were 3 undead legions guarding 3 directions, namely the Black Knight Legion, the Headless Knight Legion and the Skeleton General Legion, all of which were level 190 royal beasts. Among them, the leader was still a spirit king. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 449. Yang Tian remained calm, quickly identified the location of the main hall, and quietly moved over. When he arrived at the main hall, Yang Tian could not help but find that the layout of the main hall of this palace was exactly the same as that of the palace hall, but it was much darker and older. On the throne, there was a humanoid monster sitting upright. His clothes were ancient and worn, but it was vaguely recognizable as a black dragon robe. The face of the monster was very illusory and had no substance, as if it was forcibly pieced together by a mass of dark matter. There were 2 balls of red light in the eyes, staring at Yang Tian, who was at the door. Despite being prepared, Yang Tian was still startled. The monster was the Lich King, with a pair of scarlet eyes staring at him. "No, I'm stealth, it shouldn't be able to see me." Yang Tian's face was covered with cold sweat, and he forced himself to calm down. Afterwards, he made some attempts, such as waving at the Lich King, but the latter did not show any expression. "It's sleeping, damn, it's sleeping with its eyes open, it scared me." Yang Tian breathed a sigh of relief. The black robe of the Lich King covered most of his body, with only the illusory and terrifying face and his hands exposed. His hands were very pale, as if they had not seen the sun for billions of years, without a trace of blood. Each finger was wearing a ring, either gold, silver, or jade, full of luxury. One hand was on the dragon throne, and the other hand was holding a black crystal staff. According to the background information of Taixu, the Lich is a species formed by the mutation of human corpses. The current Lich King was probably an emperor of an empire when he was alive. The Lich King fell asleep on the throne, and on both sides of the hall, there were 3 powerful lives on standby. A skeleton, a black knight, a headless knight, a zombie slime, a man eating grass, and the last one was the ghost of Xianyuan Long-Er. Except for Xianyuan Long-Er, the 5 were not ordinary dark creatures, and their life strengths all reached the level of holy beasts. Including Xianyuan Long-Er, they all had chaotic eyes and very weak consciousness. Obviously, they were all controlled by the Lich King. Without the Lich King's order, they would always stand here on standby. Tisk tisk, this Lich King is really powerful. If such a terrifying lineup is released, it can easily flatten an empire. Yang Tian sighed secretly. Of course, he can almost flatten an empire now. As an avenger, after resurrecting Xianyuan Long-Er, he will uproot the Xinwu Empire as soon as possible. There are also the other 3 empires, and even Zeus, he will not let them go, and must let them taste what fear is. What should I do? The Lich King is in a deep sleep, I can take the initiative, this is a great opportunity now. Yang Tian hesitated and fell into a dilemma. After all, the opponent is a divine beast, he really needs to make a good judgment and cannot afford any mistakes. Use the extreme summoning to summon 10 teams of undead, with a number of 10,000 and a 10,000-fold output. Even if it cannot cause much damage to the Lich King, it should be enough to kill Long-Er and the other 5 sacred beasts in seconds, and suck blood to create a powerful life shield. Because of the existence of the blood-sucking staff, Yang Tian has a little more confidence. As long as the damage is high and the blood is sucked, the strength of the life shield will be large enough, plus the bone shield, Yang Tian's life safety will be guaranteed to a certain extent. With this thought, Yang Tian waved his hand decisively, used the extreme summoning, and played 10 huge summoning arrays in the main hall at one time. Immediately, a large army of undead emerged, emitting bursts of evil and miserable laughter. At this time, the Lich King who had fallen into a deep sleep was awakened. At the same time, Xianyuan Long-Er and the other 5 sacred beasts regained their spirits in their eyes, and they also awakened. Yang Tian was slightly panicked in his heart, and with a snap, he quickly snapped his fingers and used the corpse explosion. However, the crisp snapping sound was so clear in the hall, but the undead army was motionless, with no sign of detonation. Even, Yang Tian suddenly felt that his consciousness was cut off from the undead army, and he could not control them. Failed, the Lich King actually controlled my undead army in an instant. Yang Tian's heart trembled. Seeing the Lich King, Xianyuan Long-Er and the 5 sacred beasts, and even the undead army staring at him coldly, Yang Tian panicked and suddenly realized that the previous snapping sound had exposed his coordinates. Bone Spear. The Lich King moved his mind, and the black crystal magic wand in his hand suddenly shot out a bone spear, hitting Yang Tian's glass bone shield, forcing Yang Tian's body hidden in the shadow out, and hitting it violently. Lich, in fact, is a necromancer, proficient in almost all the skills of necromancers in the realm. If you are also a necromancer and want to learn skills, as long as you have the strength, you can go to the Lich to fight. With a bang, Yang Tian flew backwards, and a fist-sized hole appeared on his glazed bone shield, and the hole was surrounded by dense cracks. Yang Tian was startled, and he looked up and found that the glazed bone shield, which originally had a life thickness of 400 billion, now only had a life thickness of 150 billion. In other words, the Lich King's bone spear caused about 250 billion damage to Yang Tian. This damage is already very high. You know, the basic combat power of gods or mythical beasts is generally only 20 to 30 billion, while Yang Tian's basic combat power is as high as 4 billion. Soul-chasing arrow. Then, the Lich King shot a black arrow, broke through the air, and shot towards Yang Tian. The soul-chasing arrow is one of the ultimate skills of the Necromancer. It has extremely high damage, and once it locks on the target, it can continue to chase and even turn. The Lich King is a divine beast. The soul-chasing arrow released by it flies very fast, several levels faster than Yang Tian's speed. Seeing that he was about to be hit by the soul-chasing arrow, Yang Tian quickly caught the inertia of the flying arrow, turned abruptly, rushed out of the main hall, and rushed to the central square. Roar! Last time, Yang Tian was steel-fed and invisible. But this time, Yang Tian's figure was exposed. After arriving at the central square, the Black Knight Corps, the Headless Knight Corps, and the Skeleton General Corps present rioted, roared in groups, and besieged the direction where Yang Tian came from. Yang Tian was in constant danger, and this was the effect he wanted. He only had 120 million HP, and now facing the Lich King, this life was almost negligible. And now the glazed bone shield only had 150 billion life strength left, and it could definitely not withstand the damage of the soul-chasing arrow. If the glazed bone shield exploded, he would definitely die. In this case, all he could do was suck blood. Now a group of royal beasts came to die, for Yang Tian now, it was nothing more than a pillow when he was sleeping. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 450. Undead Transformation, Black Knight. Total Annihilation. Yang Tian swiped the spear in his hand, triggering a black light wave 100 yards wide, which galloped out and cut all the undead in half, causing huge damage and falling to the ground. 213503300212 213503300212 213503300212 3 undead legions, a total of 300 undead. Yang Tian swept through thousands of troops with one move, hitting all of them and eliminating 300 damage. Each of these injuries is as high as 200 billion. Each of the 3 undead legions has a leader, who is in the Spirit King realm. The damage suffered by the 3 of them was only tens of billions, but they were also destroyed in seconds, exploding a large amount of equipment, coins, materials, etc. Countless red dots popped out from the broken bones and rushed toward Yang Tian's body, forming a scarlet shield on his body. Almost at the same time, soul-chasing arrows came in pursuit and exploded behind Yang Tian, sending up thick smoke. When the thick smoke dissipated, he stood proudly in the sky, still unscathed. However, after being struck by the soul-chasing arrow, the glazed bone shield on his body had been shattered, and the scarlet shield that had just been formed had also been depleted to a certain extent of its strength. Yang Tian raised his eyes and scanned the scarlet shield's life strength. It was still over 6 trillion. 6 trillion, Yang Tian's eyes froze. Without the vampire staff, he would have almost been defeated by the Lich King, but now, he has the ability to compete with the Lich King. Although the process was thrilling, the corpse explosion failed, and he was almost killed. Yang Tian finally obtained a very strong life shield through blood-sucking. Human Necromancer, you are so courageous that you dare to challenge me, as a majestic voice sounded. The Lich King led Xian Yuan Long the Skeleton King and other 5 holy beasts, stepped out of the hall and came to the center on the square. Behind them was a dark army of undead. The undead that was originally summoned by Yang Tian did not obey his orders at this moment, even if he wanted to disperse the undead army. At this time, Yang Tian glanced at the Lich King. Even with the true eye, he could not see the Lich King's attribute panel. The level and realm were too different. Humans, feel the fear of being dominated by the undead. The Lich King laughed evilly, and the 6 guards and the undead army behind him roared and rushed towards Yang Tian. Boo-hoo-hoo dash. The holy beast man-eating grass was the first to attack. The floor below Yang Tian was broken open, and a total of 9 man-eating grass branches, like tentacles, flew towards Yang Tian from bottom to top. Yang Tian was shocked. The opponent was a holy beast, a man-eating grass, with extremely strong control ability. In this case, Yang Tian knew that he could not be controlled. Whirlwind. Yang Tian Quanguo held the spear in his hand, forming a huge black whirlwind that enveloped his whole body. Bang bang bang, the 9 tentacles touched the whirlwind one after another, and were directly cut into pieces, sputtering out a large piece of green in the sky. Juice. Of course, the green juice is the blood of the tentacles, and those tentacles are part of the body of the holy beast man-eating grass. After all 9 tentacles were crushed, the holy beast man-eating grass let out a sharp scream in pain. Yang Tian killed the 9 tentacles. After those tentacles fell to the ground, blood cells popped up and rushed to Yang Tian's body, but the strength of the scarlet shield on Yang Tian's body did not change. Blood stealing. When a shield is formed, the strength will continue to be refreshed by blood stealing units per second, but the strongest shield will be retained. For example, if you suck 1 million blood in the first second, you will form a 1 million life shield. If you suck 2 million blood in the second, the shield will be refreshed to 2 million life strength. And if you suck 2 million blood in the first second, forming a 2 million life shield, and if you suck 1 million blood in the second, the shield will not be refreshed, and the 2 million life strength shield will still be retained. Sweeping thousands of armies is already one of Yang Tian's most powerful skills. The most important thing is that it has a large attack range. At that time, more than 300 undead were killed in one move, causing terrifying damage, sucking blood, and causing 6 trillion and powerful lives. Shield. Now, after killing only 9 tentacles, the amount of damage dealt is naturally not worth mentioning. The blood-sucking and shield strength are far inferior to the previous ones, so they will not be refreshed. Such a high combat power. Even at the holy level, the holy beast man-eating grass is vulnerable to a single blow. Looking at the 9 tentacles in front of him being crushed, green juice sputtered out, like a scene of a goddess scattering flowers, the Lich King's eyes a shudder. At this time, Xianyuan Long the Black Knight, the Headless Horseman, the Skeleton Holy King, and the Zombie Slime, a total of 5 guards, had already jumped out of the air and focused their fire towards Yang Tian. The undead army, numbering in the tens of thousands, are all level 180 imperial beasts that do not have the ability to fly. They are gathered together in a dark mass, staring at each other from below. Only the team of skeleton mages and the team of skeleton archers launched long-range attacks at Yang Tian, shooting magic arrows all over the sky. Undercurrent. Suddenly, a dark lake within 100 yards appeared at Yang Tian's feet. This undercurrent, after several version updates, has been changed from a passive skill to an active skill. Like the undead transformation, it requires a certain amount of mana to maintain every second. You can turn it on when you want, and turn it off when you want. From the actual situation, this revision has no substantial changes. As the undercurrent at Yang Tian's feet spread out, although Xianyuan Long and others did not fall into the undercurrent, their bodies were in a position slightly higher than the undercurrent. But even so, the undercurrent seemed to transmit a kind of gravity, which made their feet heavy, and their movement speed decreased uncontrollably, decreasing by 30%. In this environment, Xianyuan Long and others naturally found it difficult to approach Yang Tian. Instead, The 1,000 skeleton mages and 1,000 skeleton archers below continued to shoot magic arrows and focused their fire on Yang Tian. Continuous explosions sounded, and Yang Tian remained motionless. He swept the scarlet shield and found that the strength had not decreased, and it was still 6 trillion plus. Too weak. The damage that the royal beast could cause to the Holy King was too little. Even if 2,000 royal beasts focused their fire at the same time, they could only cause tens of millions of damage in 1 second at most. However, the strength of Yang Tian's scarlet shield was measured in trillions, and the loss of tens of millions of strength was really not worth mentioning. Death charge. Yang Tian used the power of the Holy King, and his body suddenly expanded 10 times. He rode the undead warhorse towards Xianyuan Longer and others, leaving behind a trail of illusory afterimages, which was extremely gorgeous. Above the level of the Spirit King, one can grow larger or smaller. As a Holy King, Yang Tian naturally has this ability. The expansion of the body does not increase the combat power at all, and it is even easier to become a live target for the enemy because of its large size. But the enlargement of the body still has its own unique effect, that is, the attack range is doubled. At this moment, Yang Tian became 10 times larger, and the attack range increased 10 times. With a death charge, Xianyuan Longer and others were all hit, and they flew out, and each lost a quarter of their blood. Continuous stab. Yang Tian controlled the warhorse under his crotch and stuck to it. The long spear in his hand stabbed continuously, and the attack speed was too fast, as if 100 long spears were shooting at the same time.